Okay. Okay, should be sent. Is it good?
I don't see it. Okay. No, I can't check it.
You want to check on YouTube?
Okay, now it says live. All right.
Okay, is it good?
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, no, there's a weird noise in the background. The audio is not working. This is what I hear.
Is it better now?
Let's see. We'll test if you can hear the audio. I don't hear anything now.
Okay, let's try.
No, like I don't hear our voices.
Hello? Test, test, test.
Nothing.
my goodness. What is wrong with everything?
It's frozen. It says it's done.
On YouTube?
Facebook says was live.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, now it's... No, the audio has a... Listen, check the audio because it's not good. Facebook says was live. There's a squealing noise in the background.
No, the audio has a... Listen, check the audio. No, you just have to shut it all down and do it again.
I mean, you can listen and see.
Is it gone?
I think it's better. It's really hard to tell because there's a delay.
Wait.
I mean, this is just on Facebook.
Seems good now.
Sounds like you can hear that. But anyway, I mean, our voices will be loud.
What? Where's the bus stop?
I mean, this is just on Facebook.
Yeah. No?
Listen. I mean, I don't know. It's up to you.
What? Where's the bus stop? I think it's always been there then, if that's what it is.
I mean, I don't know. It's up to you.
It's always been there if it's AC. And I can't do it without the AC. Eventually it's just gonna get too hot.
No, then turn it on. I mean, it's completely up to you.
Okay. Hello and welcome to another episode on the Cultivated channel. Sorry, we've had a lot of technical difficulties this morning and we should be good. Hopefully the buzz isn't too bad. Sometimes that happens. I can't seem to figure it out. But today we're going to talk about long-term versus big picture and which is more important, and to decide pick right or left.
Right.
So you're going to do long term, and I'm going to do big picture.
Okay.
Do you want to start?
No, go ahead.
So big picture. Again, I always take the perspective of, being in the present, being in the moment as being the most important thing. And so with that in mind, I think that the big picture is really important. I would say that it's one of the things that helps me be in the moment better is gratitude. And I think that gratitude is big picture, for me at least. Because so many times we might be, really late taking our kid to school, right? But then when we take a step back and we realize big picture, I got time to take my kid to school. I get to spend time with my kid. And that's amazing. And that's really great, even though, we don't like being late for whatever reason. And so I think that big picture, at least with the perspective of being present in the moment to trying to get the most out of life, that big picture is more important because it allows us to be present better in reference to how do we all fit in, right? I think one of the things, this actually brings up a thing that I remember I did in in school in reference to empowerment and how empowerment is really important because we're part of something bigger. And I think that when it comes to big picture, being part of something bigger, I think involves the element of purpose, of feeling like it's something bigger than yourself, and that is very much big picture. And that gives, I think, a spiritual underlining in reference to a need that humans have to be present and, you know, taking in the whole moment, as well as big picture potentially could be where do I fall in and it's one of the things I see a lot in Asia, I guess, that you can be part of a big thing and be one screw or one gear, but without that gear, without that screw, that machine wouldn't work. And being really proud and putting your all in reference to being part of a gear in the big thing. And I'm not saying you should always do that. I think that the West does the individual very well, but I think that big picture helps you to realize, hey, I might not have the most glamorous job here, but without me, this wouldn't be able to happen. So yeah, I would say big picture is gratitude. Big picture is being part of something bigger than yourself, and big picture is very much about this. I guess, I guess the spiritual and the part of a bigger machine kind of go hand in hand. So I'd say those 2 points off the top of my head. Again, this is live.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to see how they are different, right? Like pitted against each other, long term versus big picture. So when I think of long term, it's more about looking down the road and planning.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking, so when I say, if I do this, what will the impact be? Right? That's one question I could ask. If I make this decision, what will the impact be? And then if you're adding a long-term perspective, it's, and then what? So like, what is the impact? And then what happens or what comes next? Or trying to go a little bit further down the road than just thinking, well, what is the consequence or what is the impact of this decision or action? And then I also think long term is about like making a roadmap. So planning out steps, looking forward. What do I want to get to? I mean, for some people, long term may even be a year, some maybe many years, right? I think it really depends on what frame you're using. But even so, you can think, okay, I want to go here. Long term, what's the impact? And then what? Will this matter in 10 years? Will this matter in 5 years? Especially if there's something about kind of getting stuck in a loop of, oh, I made a mistake or this decision, then being able to look long term at it and making a roadmap. So having that kind of plan and action part. And I see the big picture component, as you say, like seeing kind of the how you fit the vision, but then you also have to have the plan for action. So I think that component is important, the plan for action. And then I see it as like, okay, the time continuum. So then you're also able to kind of put yourself in your future self's shoes and look backwards to help you, like not just plan, but to help you realize, okay, it's all right. It's going to be okay. Even if it doesn't seem like everything is okay in the specific moment. So I think long term is important because of the ability to be able to look forwards into the future, plan, and then make a plan from today towards that point, but also to be able to look backwards from your potential future and say, all right, it's going to be okay today. Like, this is not going to have all the ripple effects in 10 years. It's not going to matter. Right, so there's things that really do matter, and then being able to say, okay, this thing in this moment isn't really going to matter in 10 years, for example.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm trying to wrap my head around this in reference to, long term and trying to separate them. And I think in some ways, like if today you don't have a lot to look forward to, I think the long term is really important so that you have more to look forward to. But that being said, if I had to choose, I like that I got big picture, because now that I don't know if something happens when we choose a path, we start seeing that this path is better. Oh, you start talking to yourself in reference to like this path is so much
justifying.
smoother, so there's more trees. It's just so nice. But in reality, you don't even know what's on the other road, right? You're just convincing yourself about it. But that being said, I feel like big picture is better, because I think that there's always a silver lining to everything, and that's why I would rather people be positive rather than negative in reference to what drives them. But I think that so many times in this world, things pass us by. We're always about where we're getting to. And again, don't get me wrong, if you're in a ditch, you want to get out of it. But if you can't laugh that you fell into the ditch and, be present in that moment, then you're just going to be in misery. And what if you don't get out of the ditch? You're going to die miserable, right? I don't know. I'm just trying to give different perspectives in reference to like different scenarios in the present and which would be more important. And I think, long term is extremely important. But I think that trying to get to the present and trying to be in the moment, and there always being a silver lining, I feel like if you're going to only focus on one, I really think big picture is going to help you, make a smart decision, which kind of connects to the long term. Maybe take a pause in reference to seeing the whole thing, which involves maybe a longer path as well, which is why I think a lot of times we overlap them, because we take a pause, we look at the whole thing, and then we look at where we're going. So it's not just a wide, it's a length. And right now we're focusing on just wide or length. But like I said, considering I'm a strong believer in being present in the moment, conscious, trying to get the most out of it, I think that big picture is very important. That being said, I think that would be not a very fulfilling life if we only focused on the moment, because I think in that life, the world is just coming at you, right? You are like, you are in the ocean, and the current is just putting you wherever it wants, whenever it wants. And I think that that's not the best for anybody. I think feeling empowered and understanding what you have power over your life, and that you can steer yourself one way or another, pick the current you want to take, and so on and so forth. I think that for long-term mentality or psychology or just overall sentiment in reference to feeling fulfilled and feeling like you have purpose, because I think a lot of times when you become conscious, right, of your moment, the big picture, there's going to be things that you're not going to be happy with, and you're not going to just roll over and be like, well, oh well, right? You're going to want to be better, get stronger, feel more fulfilled, have purpose if you don't have it, and bring meaning to what you're doing, and so on and so forth. And I don't think you can do that without the long term. So in other words, if you can only focus on one, I would say focus on the big picture, that in that moment you're going to get more of that moment. But that being said, that if you have an extra second, then the next second should be the long term, because that will actually make it for the next second that you're in the moment, that you get more of that moment.
I think it's a false dichotomy, right? Like it's for the purpose of also trying to think about things differently in the conversation, but I think they're complementary. However, there is utility, like it's useful to, well, what is the difference, right? Because I think they are also, they're often overlapped. And I think the idea of, okay, it's widening, zooming out, looking bigger, big picture, is kind of this horizontal, right? And then long term, you have the like time horizon element. And together they complement each other very much, very well. I'm just thinking of an example. Just for me from yesterday, like a huge project, months and months of planning and preparation with the whole team, and a team meeting, and everyone is so focused on their area and the details, and there's a lot of energy and work going into it. And taking a minute to say both things, like stop, take a breath, big picture. Why are we doing this? Why are we spending so much time on this? Because we want it to be inclusive, because we want all these elements, and we're doing it, and it matters. And let's step on the time horizon. Yes, it's hard right now. In 2 weeks, we'll be celebrating. It will all come together. All the work you're doing now will come to fruition. And wait a minute, look back. You've already done more than half of the work to make this happen. So I think the combination of being able to look in all these different dimensions together is really valuable. I mean, I think there's an element of, like you said, the world's coming at you. And so if you're in a busy moment, it's just grind, 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 go, go. And you have to be able to act. But I think taking a breath and taking a moment and being able to look, zoom out, and then zoom forward and backwards, and then say, okay, I can be in this moment. I can feel better about what's happening right now and the choices and the things I'm going to do now or today, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I think an interesting way to think about it, I think, would be to look at it from the how and the why. I can see your
Mm-hmm.
perspective in reference to why being big picture, but for me, maybe it's just because one has to go one place and one has to go the other. But I would say why fits better for me long term. Because like you said in in this conference, why are you guys doing it, right? The reason you guys are preparing this project and doing all these things is why, and you have to remember that because we
Mm-hmm.
lose sight of that, right? Why are you working so hard? Why do you do these things? And the why gives meaning to what we're doing, but the how, I think that that something we overlap in the big picture is that it's not about do, it's about how we do those things. And I think the big picture means, how do I fit in with, and so in other words, if you just focus on your own thing and you're not really thinking of other people, it's like a chain, right? It's going to break at somewhere else. And sometimes big picture means you look at the side and you see someone struggling and you're like, how can I help? You're struggling too, but you know that you, like, worst case scenario, it'll be okay. It won't be good, but it'll be okay. And so if you
Right.
have a little slack, you're just like, but that won't be okay. And so that, I think, is a big picture. And that's the how, right? There's a reason, and I like to, go back, that a lot of surveys have shown that people stay at their jobs not for the money, not for the, power
Mm.
or their boss, or whatever, but it's for the people. And the people is about how they interact, how they connect with each other. And I think
Yes.
with the big picture, the how comes in as well. And I don't know if I'm just being very competitive today, but I think that also makes a big picture more important, because so many times, again, if you only have this moment, big picture is more important than how you did it, because you're going to feel good. It's going to be, you're going to get the most out of that moment. But no one ever lives in one moment, right? So if you want
No.
to have a more fulfilling life, a life of purpose where it has meaning and where you can just enjoy more that life offers, then you have to look at the long term.
Yes, I think as usual we come to like the importance of both and the complementarity, and I think the time part, it brings me back to using time as a tool and not
Yes.
being used by time, because I feel like the time component, I mean, this is a huge part of our lives. Time, it is a reality as it passes, but it's also a construct and it can be used as a tool. And I think that's where it's really important, especially when we talk about the how, the living in the moment. And for me, I in the past have always felt like I'm not in control of time. Time, I'm always in a rush. I'm always late. Never enough time. Like this time scarcity. Of course, it is a limited resource, right? Each day is limited. Things that have an end are ultimately limited. But I think it's really seeing how I can use time as a tool, right?
Yeah.
So to say, this can be motivating. This can also help me to get out of the cycle of, okay, in a year, is it going to matter? In 10 years, is it going to matter? Yes, and or no. And so I can continue to, I can let go of this. Or I can choose, I want to focus on this. I want to build this into my habits, into my routines. So I think taking it as a not rushing to school, not letting time push you around. I mean, you can't change the time, but you can say, we're going to be late and that's okay, and I'm going to enjoy this time with my kid on the way to school.
No, I love that. I think that's great. Bringing the element of time as a tool. And you know what I tell people? Because a lot of people always counter with that. I'm like, time's a tool. And they're like, you only get a certain minutes in a day. And I was like, but that's because you choose, right? You choose. You can measure your day in seconds, in minutes, in hours, in whatever you want, right? And we don't know we're going to die. So there's no set measurement. It is a tool
True.
because of how you want to. If you want to book every day down to the minute, do it. If you want to book down to the 15 minutes, do it. An hour, by the day, whatever you want. Do it, because that's the thing. You can measure it any way you want it. It doesn't change that you get a day. right?
Right.
The sun sets at different times. The sun comes up at different times. You work on through the night. You work on really early in the morning. The measurement it doesn't really matter, right? Especially when you start looking, if you want to look at it like even in a very technical sense, when you start looking at time from like a light year, you know, what are we measuring, right? But it's the same thing.
True.
I think the only value that time has is as a tool so that we get the most out of our lives. So do you want to measure your life by the minute, by the hour, by the day? It depends on you and what makes sense for you. But that being said, like anything, if you want to shape a piece of wood, you need a carving tool. And so if you want to shape the time that you have in your life, you kind of need to use time as a tool. And I think you're spot on. Long term, that's what it's all about. I think that if you want to only think about this second, then yes, big picture is most important. But if you want to think about this second and the next second, then you need to take them both in conjunction.
Yes.
And if you only want to think about the next second, then I think long term is clearly the winner.
Just focus on that.
But I don't suggest that. Like I
No.
said, I think that first is this second, and the next second should be your next priority. And I think that that's how close they are. That they're bam bam, you know, in reference to the next thing that you look forward to, or the next thing you do, or the next thing you allocate time as a tool to looking at that long term. Because we don't know when our last day is, but when you reach tomorrow, if you are so lucky, then you're going to maybe feel a little empty and have a little bit of a void in you because you didn't know why you did yesterday, right? And I think that's what it does. The long term puts it in perspective at length and at the other dimension. And when you do that, you realize how important the why is. Without the why, I think we struggle with purpose, with meaning, with all those different things. And so that being said, you know, I think that some people are different and they need, maybe the why is more important to them than the how.
Right. I think it comes to also motivation, like you said, what motivates you, or maybe it changes depending on the kind of the timing or even the kind of task or environment, right? If you're already super motivated, you want why is easy, you've got that, then you need the plan. So it's like the vision and the purpose and the roadmap. Right.
Yep.
And I think all together, that's these different dimensions, whatever you want to call them, long term, big picture, how, why, like all of these components together. And then being able to also in the moment kind of take that breath and look in the different directions at the different dimensions. Feel, all right, this is where right now where I want to be because of what I'm doing, why, where I want to go, where I've been. Like, I think that's a really... I guess calming. I mean, maybe it's not calming depending on what you're seeing, but potential to be very calming, even when it's in the moment, also could be very hectic in reality.
I think in the end, I'll say that it's really difficult to separate. I liked your example with the roadmap because, yes, first things first, you need fuel. You need a form of transportation, and you need to know how to operate that. Without those two, that's the big picture.
Right, you're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere. But then once you're there, you're just like, I don't know where I'm going to go. Like, then you're just sitting in the car with the car on, and you're just like, I don't know where to go. And so I think that it's really hard. Like, you have to turn on the car first. You have to get in the car first. And that's why I think I keep putting the big picture first. But I think that once you get past that second, the next second needs to be, well, where am I going and why am I going there?
Yes. It makes me think of this funny cartoon of someone getting out of bed and like, okay, pants first, then shoes, right? You have to do things.
Yeah.
I think a certain order
exactly.
is necessary. Sometimes it doesn't matter what order, but sometimes it's very important.
Yeah, I agree. I think we found something that really needs to go hand in hand. It's really hard to separate it because you're always going to have the next second, right? Or I mean, maybe we don't, but most likely we'll have that next second. And so you need to be thinking about the next second. But I would say this. Allocate 51% to the moment, to the how, to the big picture, and then at least that much. And you can fluctuate, but I think I think in today's world and what I see, and this is, you know, anecdotal in my experience, we need more of that. I think people will be much more satisfied in their life if they're focused on that. And then if you want 49% focus on the long term, on, you know, the those other aspects of why and the things we talked about. That being said, I think that's a good place to end it. It's a
Yes.
very interesting concept in how it fits together. It's really hard to separate the two unless you know this is your last second, right? That's
Right.
the only way.
But
So
we
that
don't
being said,
necessarily get that.
you don't get to know that, right? So I would say balance them out and figure out which is going to be the best thing for you to be able to do that. And for homework, I would say look at yourself. If again, this is my experience, if you are like most people who are focusing on the long term, and to be fair, I think most people focus on tomorrow, not the long term. And the long term, like Juliet said, it could be different things. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, next month, next year, or for me it's 10 years out there. And that's different. But if you're only focusing on that, then I would tell you to, for your homework, to try to focus on the big picture. And a good way to do that is focusing it or on a foundation of gratitude. So stop and take a big picture perspective and be like, what are you grateful for? And if you need reminding, just to read the news, right? There's just so many things going on, and we have so much privilege to be able to not be in certain places in the world that are having it rough right now. And so I think that that's for me a very easy way to be grateful for whatever you have from that perspective. And if you are very in the moment, which I think is the minority, then definitely focus on what Juliet's been talking about, on that long term, on that why, on looking at that horizon for you and making you feel that maybe you can take that step. Maybe it's courage, maybe it's about preparation so that you feel confident in doing. Because if you're not doing anything in the moment, then you're also just being taken, right? So I want you to just not be present in the moment, but to be doing, empowered by your own action and being proactive, and that is motivated by the future. Want anything to add?
No, I think it's a great place to end, and we have all the horizons to look at.
Yeah.
The different
Yeah.
directions.
It's just the best way. It's just two dimensional, right? This is big picture, and this is long term.
Right.
And it's like if you want to live, and I mean, there's always time, and I think that's why we brought it up. I think time is that 3D
Right,
thing.
it's
We live in the
different
3D
dimensions.
thing, and again, I'm using time as a tool. I think we all have a set time that we are here, and that can be argued. But I think that the time concept that we use is very much a tool, and that brings a third dimension. And if you want to live in this world, I think you have to take all three into consideration if you want to live a satisfied life.
Yes.
All right, that's all. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you want more information, please check out the book, The Selfish Guide. It's on Amazon or the social media. I do know that Facebook is no longer keeping the live streams for as long. They now have an expiration date, but they should all be available on YouTube. So please go on there and look at those, as well as the website or at LinkedIn as well. And if you have any ideas for any future conversations, please comment below. Or if you have an experience with long-term versus big picture, please comment below. Until next time, please stay curious, stay open, and stay true to you. Thanks for watching.